Is going on, everybody? Welcome in to the North End Podcast, episode 134. My name is Zach Graham, your host here in the North End, joined, as always, by my good buddy. He's on record as my best friend. His name is Ian Michaud, and we call him
E.
He's sitting here on a Monday evening after a Sunday afternoon matinee. Didn't quite go our way, but I ask you, as I always do, how are you feeling, my friend?
I'm all right, man. You know, still processing this game, contemplating it, still thinking about what could have been and what actually was. You know, I think we talked about it earlier a bit. We weren't going to have too much to discuss here. Can't really talk about too many shots for the team. But I think there is, some decent amount of takeaways to take up from this performance. And, I'm not overly excited to get into it given the result there, but we do have to press on. This is part of the lows and highs and lows of this season, rooting for this team this year and this iteration until we get to the summer window. But, I walked away initially disappointed. I felt like maybe I was the most reasonable person at our little watch party yesterday.
Probably. Yeah, it definitely wasn't me,
which is rare for me. But, there's some stuff to take away from it. And I know that both of us have a lot of thoughts about what could have been and how the team looked yesterday. But other than that, I am doing well. Had a good workout today, good day at work and everything. So can't complain too much, enjoying the beautiful weather. Got my Fighting Leslie shirt on, so
there you go. Shout out.
Ready to roll, man. You know, let's do this thing.
You'd be surprised how many notes I can take on a game that has so little for everybody's favorite team.
I'm not.
Yeah. Well, let's go ahead and get into it. We'll recap the St. Louis match. We'll hit on last business day, best keeper in the world, everything else in between. Before we jump into the recap, just want to remind you, if you haven't yet, take 5 seconds, rate, review, and subscribe to the podcast wherever you get your podcasts. And if you're watching on the YouTube channel, hit that subscribe button. It helps us grow the show. You can hit the notification bell to know when a live stream pops up or a new episode goes live. And of course, on this episode, hit that thumbs up, like the video, help us battle the YouTube algorithm overlords, which you can also do by leaving a comment and joining in on the discussion. Any and all of that you can do for us. We would love you for it. Wash yourselves clean in the waters of the North End. We got the lineup, of course, about an hour before kickoff. And kind of as expected, we had all the same except Hector Jimenez to the bench, Gimme, Biro in the starting 11 there on the left, a bench of Cleveland, Hedges, Jimenez. Kolmanich was indeed available off the bench. Valencia, Finley, Rigoni, and Zardes. So what were your takeaways when you saw the lineup graphic posted?
I think it was the right move. I think it was the right call. We knew that goals were going to be hard to come by on the road here, just given the way that this team performs on the road. And Guilherme is a huge upgrade on the offensive side of the ball from Hector in regard to what he can do, the dynamic offensive power that he provides to us. But I thought it was the right move, and you see us come out, and this is definitely two teams really feeling one another out to start this game and trying to get a hold on what this game is going to look like. I know that we said let them have the ball and just, try to stop their very high-powered offense going forward. They were much more content to let us have the ball and kind of, play around with it in the back there, which, I don't think it was too terrible of a game plan in that regard. Once they were allowing us to have that ball, because you saw this first half and how this played out, we kind of hit them later in the end here. But I thought the lineup was the right move, the right call. This has been our best lineup with, some different iterations at fullback and things along those lines. But we just weren't able to get the job done.
Yeah, well, let's get into this one here. And then third minute, the first thing on the rewatch that caught my eye, again, is Ostrak stepping on John Gallagher. And he gets a yellow card, and Ted Uncle looks like he's talking to John about something. I hope it was just checking on him to see if he was okay, because Ostrak just literally steps on his ankle, full boot, cleats into his shin there. And I don't know, man, I wasn't calling for it in the moment, but I think I said something to you along the lines of I think I've seen a red card in soccer given for a challenge like that. So it was a tough one. A yellow was given. And I guess we should also mention on that St. Louis side, not only did Edward Leuven not start, he was inactive, as was Samuel Adeniran. So I guess just maybe getting ahead of ourselves, getting into the game already, because I think when we, that hour leading up to the match, I absolutely shifted from, we're not favored here, would love a draw, to like, I want a result. I expect a result. And maybe, of course, with hindsight, it's always 2020. So maybe looking a little foolish to be thinking that at the time. But I know I wasn't the only one seeing that lineup and kind of shifting the expectations.
Absolutely. I mean, when they're without Leuven, man, he's their best player, and they're a completely different team. And you saw it in this game. They're really, they get this goal from Klaus, but it still wasn't the same type of offense that we're used to seeing from this St. Louis team. And, they're well coached and they're tough at home. And, they still got some firepower, AZ Jackson off the bench as well. But yeah, once I saw that lineup, I was like, we can definitely get a result here, man.
Yep. Well, and like you mentioned kind of before a few minutes ago, that press was on in those early minutes, man, and really trying to catch Austin slipping at the back. And luckily for us, I think for the most part, the team was pretty sound on that back line and in the midfield, at least, limiting the turnovers and the fast break opportunities for the opponent last night. Somewhere in there, we know that the league has now fixed Guilherme Biru's bio.
There we go.
But still struggling with the name pronunciation because it is not Biro, it's Biro. And that pronunciation has been on the league site this entire time. So poor Guilherme, man, they just can't get it right with this guy.
No, they really can't. And they were searching for that early goal. As you saw from that press, they were really trying to get one on us early and try to put us away, and they weren't able to. And I thought fatigue started to set in a little bit for them. Klaus hasn't been completely healthy this season, and I thought he really kind of dropped off, but then obviously he picks it up again in the second half. But, we weathered that storm, and like the initial punch and the press is what they have really killed us on before. And we were able to weather it and like handle all that pressure well. These bad turnovers that kind of happen later in this game always are an eyesore and they stick out in my memory.
Yeah.
But when you have that much possession, you're going to have some turnovers, some bad passes. But overall, the crispness level from how we were controlling that ball and having possession was just not, it wasn't extra crispy. It wasn't what you're looking for, when you're going in with that game plan where it's like, we're going to control the ball, and you can't give a team like that some chances that we just gave away. And I know that we'll get into those later and everything because they stuck out to me. But with the Biro name, it's definitely not one of the most difficult names in this league to pronounce. Like, even you and I nail it all the time.
It's 2 syllables.
Yeah.
So the crispy meter is not where you wanted it to be.
I just, I think that is part of the frustration with the coaching staff. If this is the way that we're going to play, you have to be able to have guys who aren't going to make poor passes, slower passes that then kill all of the little momentum that you have built up from how we're playing this possession style. So, I'm still being patient with it because I know this is not the final iteration of this team in this season. So like there's 2 ways we can go with it, right? We're going to abandon everything we've worked on, how we want to train, how we've decided that we want to play, just because we don't really have those guys that necessarily fit that style right now. Or we're going to continue through this process. And I think that is what we have committed to. And we have committed to learning this process. Obviously, we know the references with Pep and Roto and how they've played in Man City and things like that. And it's obviously been translated over here, and they are committed to it. And if we're going to be committed to it, I'm all for that. But you just can't have these bad turnovers that we had.
Yeah, and I'm with you. Like, I think I want this team to continue to try to play the way we're going to play, or what the vision is when the roster, talent-wise, is fully fleshed out, right? Or I guess I should just say occupancy-wise, considering how short we are on raw numbers at the moment. but because I want the guys who are going to remain here to have been working on this and drilling it and going through the lumps. And then when you get in a tough position, whether it's the second half or really the latter third of this season is going to be what we get after that summer window, but even into 2025, those guys that will remain the core of this team that is signed through next season, like I want them to take these lumps now, as fucking frustrating as it may be. And I'm not saying that the coaching staff shouldn't be tweaking things here and there, right? We don't need to remain so staunch in our vision of how we want the games to play out that we don't make those adjustments game to game or even in game, right?
Yeah.
But ultimately, from that wide view, that's what I would like to continue to see us trying to do our best to implement the tactics, the style that both the coaches and the sporting director want to see.
Yeah, and we're not perfect by any means in regard to the club. The coaching staff is not perfect by any means. The players are not perfect by any means, but we have a plan and we are clearly sticking to it. So I think that was very well said. We need to take our bumps and bruises here. This is the time to do it. It's frustrating to not get a point, 3 points, not see a really great shot on net for the entire fucking game, but it is what it is right now.
Yeah. Well, and just to add to the list of foolhardy things that I said at our watch party yesterday, giving Ted Uncle some praise in the first 10 minutes, because I mentioned I got the stat from our buddy, the stat man from Tim, and he was putting out some ref stats for Austin over the club's short history. And I believe that Ted Uncle became the first official to be the head official on double-digit games for Austin FC.
Oh, wow.
And what I was saying here early on was like, man, like I know that at least once a game I'm going to have a big issue with something that Ted Uncle does because that's how it's been. But overall, I can't think back to any one specific match where I was like, man, the way he called that game really screwed us.
Yeah.
And 45 seconds fucking later, yeah, Julio gets a yellow card for taking out Tomas Ostrak. And I don't know, man, this is his first foul. It seems really soft to me. I don't think it was tactical. Like this wasn't,
nope.
It wasn't a take foul in transition. Ostrak's shielding him off and near the half line, and Julio comes up, makes contact, but that is his 5th yellow card. And so he's suspended for the Dynamo match this coming Saturday, which sucks. I think there's some portions of the fan base would be like happy about it. And maybe at the end of the day, it's again, maybe good for Julio to get a little bit of a reset here and a rest because he has been playing so much over that international break. And of course, full 90s for us. But back to the officiating, I just thought, I thought it was really soft. It was his first foul, and I think it's a warning at worst. And now I think, and again, like there's no accountability for officials in this manner, but like there's a couple fouls coming up here where like 2 minutes later, Durkin takes out Seba on an Austin outlet pass coming out of our own box, and it's the same play.
Yeah.
He's shielding the ball. Contact is made. He's taken out. And so I'm just unsure why that's not a yellow card. And I don't think there was a lot of consistency in that manner from Ted and his crew.
I mean, that's my real only gripe with it is that the yellows were very inconsistent. And like you saw the first one initially, who was that? That was...
Well, it was Ostrak for stomping.
Yeah. And like, that was an incredibly aggressive one. And I could see that potentially moving into the red category later in the game if he has been physical this whole game and everything like that. But like the yellows were just super inconsistent. And it almost happened immediately after you gave him some praise.
Yeah. Yeah. So, you're having a good chuckle at my expense there. His 13th minute now. Danny turns it over trying to start the break. He overshoots Driussi in the middle of the park. St. Louis turns around. Danny flies into Durkin here, who had kind of threw himself in front of Danny. St. Louis gets the foul. And then, again, there's no yellow card there. And I don't want a yellow card on our guys, but there's no difference between that and what Julio did. And arguably, I don't even think it's an argument. St. Louis is in a much more dangerous position when this happens. So again, I don't know why there's no yellow card there. I'm glad we didn't get one, but off that free kick, which was probably, 10, 12 yards outside the box, kind of right center of net, Indy Vasilev shoots it right at Stuver. And Stuver and our guys had some serious sun in their eyes in that first half.
Yeah, dude. And we were just praying to get out of that first half without any sort of goal and thus like get on the other side of the ball. And then, of course, we kind of lose that advantage in the second half because the sun wasn't nearly as brutal.
Right.
But yeah, again, this just highlighted the real inconsistencies, weirdness with the yellow cards and how we were giving out these cautions. But that, unlike this is the first play where it's like, that is a turnover. If you are going to play this style that you absolutely just can't, it can't happen.
Yeah.
Like it just can't happen. And Danny had a few very, very detrimental turnovers in this game.
Yeah. Maybe a little lucky that it wasn't, the St. Louis didn't capitalize on some of those more.
Yeah.
17th minute here. Berkey, great long ball over everybody to Totland down that right side. And Totland's cross on the ground into the box, dummied by Ostrak and then stuffed, luckily, by Vasilev, but deflected out for a corner. And that corner is played right to Klaus, who had made a great darting run to that near post, luckily up and over the goal. But second time here in the first 20 minutes that St. Louis has been into the penalty area. And that was something that on the rewatch I was counting, because we know that Coach Wolf has said in multiple press conferences post-match that, you know, one of the things he looks at is how many, or he and the staff rather, they look at intently how many times the opponent is actually entering the penalty area. And going through that first half, there was no more than 5. So again, you're averaging like once every 10 minutes. And for a team that plays as direct as St. Louis, again, on the rewatch, it played into me calming down a little bit today. And I guess not feeling as bad as I did yesterday when emotions were running high.
Yeah, I mean, I think the defensive game plan was pretty much executed to how we wanted to contain this team. And like, that's our quote unquote red zone. That's how we refer to it and everything. And we kept them out of there for the majority of this game. And, you know, they make us pay later. But, you know, I thought that there was opportunity to be more precise, more tactical with how we were moving this ball, because they really, the press starts to fade off a little bit here. The gas has been let off and they are actually kind of conceding ground to us. And I thought that was the time to potentially make the shift to like a more aggressive kind of style of how we wanted to get a goal going here. But still, we're feeling this game out. We're feeling this team out. We're trying to see how they want to play us, because obviously no Leuven, they're going to make some strategical changes in that regard. So, you know, again, it wasn't as bad as it looked at when you look at the stats. It really was not.
Yeah. 26th minute here. Obi commits a foul about 12 yards to the left of Austin's area, and Celio Pompeu whips it in, gets punched out by Stuver. And then after a friendly Austin bounce and a nice touch to win the little duel there by Obi, Obi is by himself in on goal with 3 defenders chasing. And he takes what I will deem as a less than ideal touch here, which again, we said that for the first couple games of the season, that's what we're going to have to live with here with Heider Obrian. And he gets caught, no teammates around him, goes down. And on the replay, this actually looks like a foul, just I guess by the letter of the law. Like, I think he goes down easy and that's why he doesn't get the whistle, but there was contact to his legs. So I think that could have gone either way. But again, it's that touch, because if he gets his head to it or any part of his body that just progresses the ball forward in a manner where he can run onto it and not have to take that little stutter step, he's at least going to get a shot off and probably score. And that was just extremely unfortunate that he didn't get that last piece to the puzzle. You know, I guess you still got to go score, but man, he was gone, and none of those guys are catching him if he makes that touch. It was very, very disappointing.
No, he had to break his own stride, and we know how fast he is. But like, you know, it like you said, it's something we have to live with here. This is the type of player he is. If he was able to have deft touch on every single ball, he would not be available to us.
Yeah, it wouldn't be in this league.
I thought it was so like the initial mistake, right? It is a bad touch. I do think that this is a good attempt to draw a foul and put the ref on the spot to be like, hey, you got to make a call here. So I do give him credit for that. Would have loved to have seen something better from him here, though.
Yeah, well, and ultimately, right, like to me, this is a sign. It's really the first sign that we've seen in this half, but it gets better as we go through this first 45. This is the first sign of, I think, the game plan truly working, because the game plan is designed to minimize the number of truly dangerous attempts that the opponent has, even if we're conceding possession and conceding a lot more shots in the box score. It's, how probable are those shots? And to this point on the road, they've done a pretty good job of limiting dangerous attempts. And then you have to capitalize on those few chances that you're going to be able to create. And especially against Orlando, right? And I think Seattle as well. We just didn't create anything. And so this is the first sign here. And so again, it doesn't come to fruition, but again, it's a good sign. You want to have 2, 3, maybe get greedy, maybe 4 or 5 of those kind of chances when you're playing like this. So again, it wasn't all bad.
No, yeah, I'm right there with you, man.
28th minute. This pretty horrendous giveaway here by Owen Wolff in the defensive third, and Austin got very lucky that St. Louis fumbled this away and no damage is done because, like you said, the press was not as intense after that first 20 minutes throughout the rest of the half, but St. Louis was still very opportunistic. Anytime Austin went backwards with it, here comes that next line. They're moving up, and taking that space as Austin concedes it with the ball. 31st minute here, off a Stuver goal kick. Rubio able to touch it to Hodder there. He charges into the area down the right, cuts it back to Driussi, who's at the top of the box, and Klaus is kind of playing two here. Steps into the passing lane between Seba, or I think kind of closes down the shot attempt first and then steps into the passing lane. Seba tries to backheel it past Klaus to Wolff there on the left. It was Totland, not Klaus there on that back line. But Totland gets the deflection here. Austin stays in possession. Danny ends up playing Owen into the box down that same left side, and then he crosses it, intended for a charging Rubio, but Berkey right there to scoop it up. And man, I don't know if Seba just tries a normal pass here that it gets there, because I think Totland was in good position. But again, a couple minutes here of Austin momentum, Austin possession, and getting closer at making Roman Berkey have to raise his heart rate a little bit.
Yeah, and God, if that just a big what if there, if that could have gone through there, we would have been feeling really good. But you got to give the credit to the defense when they make a good play, and this was a good defensive play. He was able to contain 2 players at once and really try to make a tough pass, tough decision.
And the Obrian chance and then that little passage there in the 31st minute were just 2 slight bumps of green in that momentum chart on FOTMob, really between the 10th and the 40th minute. 37th minute, you get a yellow card to Chris Durkin for going through Driussi again. And again, it's the same foul that we saw in the 12th minute. So he should have been on a yellow if we have any modicum of consistency here as an officiating crew. And then he doesn't get to foul Driussi this hard later on if we make that call correctly. 42nd minute here, Austin closing the half on a high, controlling the last 7 minutes, including the 2 of stoppage time that we do get here in the 42nd. Austin gets 2 chances at the long throw in here on that right sideline. Klaus, ridiculous in between the 2 throws here. Klaus, ridiculous flop with his head. Julio barely brushes him, and he makes it the camera just barely catches it, and all of us were laughing hysterically. The camera caught that, but the second throw here from Johnny ends up with Austin going back into the horseshoe of sadness, but John on that right able to find Julio, who was tracking back from the set piece, so Julio's kind of in the midfield here, and he just one-times it to Owen. And Owen on this play does a great job, I think, to shield the defender and start a little mini break with numbers, even as the defender pulls his jersey and Ted Uncle misses that. Should have been playing the advantage here. Owen, I think, does well again here to find Seba at the top of the box, and Seba ushers it on to Alex Ring on the left, who opts to cross it instead of shoot. It gets deflected out for a corner, but to me, man, this has to be a shot. Either one time, or you take a touch to the middle around that defender who slides in, and then you let it rip. But it has to be, you have to put that on frame.
This is something we have to now really start to look at and consider.
It's a huge concern.
Yes, because he is clearly not wanting to shoot these balls.
No.
I mean, we saw it when he caught the wide open shot. It's escaping me who that was against.
That was Philly. That was Philly.
And it's becoming a trend now. He does not want to shoot these balls. And it's concerning, because if he's going to be that advanced in our attack and with how we're trying to play when we have such limited opportunities to actually get something on frame, you have to seize the moment. You have to seize the opportunity. And he has been hesitant, to say the least, on some of these plays, and this has to be a shot. And you know, it oftentimes it's just looking like he doesn't want that. Like it's either in his head, or I don't know if it's something that's coming from the coaches, but it is not something that he is stepping into, being aggressive, wanting to take on the challenge of putting something behind the keeper, and just a rough way to go.
I mean, especially if he's going to be playing that, you know, what the coaches refer to as that second 10 there, you're, for all intents and purposes, playing in the same spot as Seba. And like, if you're going to occupy one of those spots, you got to be willing to let it rip when you got that much space. We do get that corner out of it, right? And I know, and this is, I think, probably more on player personnel here rather than Coach Grubb drawing up a play that doesn't make any sense, because I think I get what we're trying to do here with what we dubbed the triple corner, because we've got not just Owen and Danny in the corner. Now we're bringing Guilherme Biro into the equation there. So 3 of our 10 field players are standing within a 6-yard radius of that corner flag. And I just don't, like, you have to execute the play on the ground here.
Yep.
In a small amount of space. And they just don't, because Biro has if I'm going to call that Owen turnover 10 minutes earlier horrendous, then this is the exact same. And it starts a break. And I don't know, man, like, we get back on the front foot quickly thanks to Alex Ring, because he does what he does best here and chases down the ball in transition. Just an awesome Valencia-esque tackle, because we don't see that as much from Alex anymore over the last year and a half. Yeah. But I thought this was a class play here by Alex to win the ball back. And we can get into what the buildup here, but I know you made a face when I referenced Alex winning this ball back, because it was impressive. And if we can count on Ring to do that, then I have a little bit more leniency for being hesitant in the offensive third. But you got to bring this, and he did in this moment. So credit.
Absolutely. Vintage Alex Ring there. Like, just an absolutely stellar, incredible tackle. We were screaming, take the foul, just like take a tactical one here, just knock this down. But like, what a slide. What an absolutely incredible play. Just one of the highlights of the game for us.
Yeah. Unfortunately. So we're back on the ball here, and Owen trying to find Diego Rubio on that back post on a cross. It goes out for a corner. We get nothing on that corner, but Austin retains possession again. And Owen fires in another cross that finds Guilherme Biro. Biro touches it down towards Julio, who's still up there, for the set piece off the corner. But Seba rushes to it and prevents Julio from getting a shot. And then the ball rolls towards Obrian, where Obrian's going to have a lane to probably shoot. Maybe it's tough from the broadcast angle, but that's surely what it looked like to me, even on the replay. And he takes the shot from Obrian, just like kind of whirling around to take his own. And I just think you have to leave those alone. Like, there are times to play hero ball, and to me, neither of those were it. And I think he was just pressing a little bit there. Because again, Julio Cascante, I'm not sure he's ever scored a goal not with his head, and he very well may have sent this into the second deck. Yeah, but I think it's a much cleaner look than Seba can get with his back to goal. And then definitely for Obi down that right side. So I don't know. We get another corner out of it. Nothing comes of it. And that was technically our first shot. We had none on target on the night. But I just think he has to do a little bit better there. And maybe some folks, and maybe Seba himself, would say it's not fair. But I think you're held to a higher standard when you have that GP tag, when you have the salary you do, when you have the captain's armband, when you were the MVP runner-up 18 months ago. The bar is higher for you, and I'm holding them to that. I think he has to do better there, and especially coming at the half.
Yeah, I don't think I'm agree with you on that one. I know we talked about it earlier before we jumped on here, and his back is turned to the net, and like, obviously he knows, he knows more than I will ever know. But sure. Like, that is not an advantageous position for him to try to get a shot off. Everyone's going to come crashing down on him at that point. Obviously, all eyes will be on him. I just don't know if he sees the other guys and like them being able to run onto this, because he's so focused in such a small, tight area. So shouldn't he have that vision though? Like, those guys aren't that far from him. I mean, yes. Again, like I said, on the rewatch, I was not able to like really get a good look at where his eyes are, if he makes any sort of eye contact or sees where Julio and Javier after initially taking this ball from Julio. But I'm going to give him a pass here just because it was a bang bang kind of play, bouncing around the box. Like I don't know. I give him a pass.
Sure, fair enough. So coming out of the half here, 48th minute, and Austin, really the first 5-7 minutes here of the second half is controlled by Austin. Excuse me, 48th minute. We get a corner. Nice build-up here that saw a John Gallagher cross. Have Seba thinking maybe a bike attempt here near that 6-yard box. He ends up opting to just bring it down and win the corner. And we get nothing. Or no, excuse me, I'm looking at a different note here. The execution on this corner is perfect. Owen right to Guilherme Biru's head, who flicks it to the back post, and then Seba whiffs this finish. And again, maybe
not getting the pass for this one.
Okay, cool. Because this to me, this you have to finish this.
Have to.
You're the best player, and Owen does his job, and Guilherme does his job. And you could make the argument that everybody else is doing their job by occupying defenders, and he runs in on the back post with the ball falling to his feet, and he just scuffs it, man. And like, I would say, going back to the actual corner, I've seen a number of fans continuing to bellyache about these crosses, and I think it's just specifically because who is taking them. This is very clearly a strategy. We saw it last week, targeting Hector Jimenez at the front post, and I think you see the difference on this one when you've got a 6'1" Biro instead of a much smaller Hector coming there on that front post, bigger target. He's able to get it over the scrum there. But again, if you're number 10, you have to finish it. It has to be a goal. That is the chance we are constructing this game plan for. And so to me, I know you said you're more in agreement on this one. To me, it's just inexcusable. He's got to be better, and he's allowed to have a game, right, where he misses a chance or two, right? But that doesn't mean you don't still get the criticism, and I think it's rightful criticism here. And before I end this little rant here, I don't know how MLS, I guess I shouldn't be surprised considering all the things this league does miss, but this is not registered as a shot until today, until this morning. FotMob had it, a couple other places had it, but MLS didn't. Ridiculous.
Absolutely ridiculous. I mean, if you don't understand that this is clearly what we're trying to do on crosses, then I'm sorry, you don't watch the games intently. You don't. There's nothing else to say about that. I'll take this chance with Seba 100 times out of 100. And this play actually gives a little more validation to your comments earlier about him pressing, because he's clearly pressing here, because he's got time where he can just kind of just like, you know what I mean? Like, I'm not going to, I'm not
like a relative tap in for him.
Yeah. I'm not going to compare him to Messi or whatever. But like, you know what I mean? Like, that is a composure play where it's like this ball's coming and you don't even have to you just have to have your foot out, because there's enough velocity, enough spin coming off this ball where it's just going into the back of the net, and Berkey's cooked, just absolutely fucking cooked. And like, this is the game right here. You know, this is the game. We lost the game pretty much right here, because if he puts this away, they have to come and just go full throttle on us. And again, our defense, our game plan for our defense had been solid. So it's super unfortunate. This is something that he has to score, he has to make, and he just doesn't. And that's the game. It's the way it broke. And again, I said it earlier, like, if you're going to play this style, and this is how we're going to approach these games, then when you have chances like this, if you miss them, you're fucked. Like, you're screwed. Like, it just takes all of the air out of everything, because not that we had a ton of air to, like, like a balloon we're flying high on the offensive side of the ball, but like everything just kind of got sucked out right there, because that's a goal 9 times out of 10. And they got lucky there. St. Louis got incredibly fortunate, incredibly lucky, because they could have been down 1-0 at home without their best player. And it's just really hard. I mean, obviously I can't foresee the future, and this is a, speculation, but like, it's hard to see us not getting a result at that point in time.
Yeah. But then we can bring in fucking Johan. And start really chopping them down back there.
Yep. Absolutely. It changed the whole game. And, we keep talking about how cliche it is, but it's a fucking fact. Goals change games. Like, that's just how it goes. And you limited chances. You have to be precise. You have to be tactical, clinical, everything, all kinds of shit. You have to be able to do it in these moments. And he didn't.
54th minute, the broadcast flashes the most individual successful passes in the game, which is a horseshoe-shaped gut punch here of, I think, 3 guys on the Austin back line, Danny and Alex. And then 57th minute, Austin's midfield gets caught a little far up the pitch here. And I don't fault all of them initially, because Alex Ring's coming up to try to win a ball here, and he does, but Austin's not able to secure possession, and the ball rolls all the way to that far sideline from the broadcast angle, and St. Louis saves it right there on the line. And Austin, we know that when we've lost possession here, especially in these road matches, it's reset the shell, right? Get back to your positions. We're not extending as much, so we don't have to recover as far. But I think, Ring, Danny, and Owen here just kind of hover kind of in no man's land relative to what we've been trying to do in that offensive to defense transition. And Ostrak changes the ball from left to right here. And then I think Owen kind of compounds the positioning mistake here by taking I think this is being nice, a poor angle. And now Totland runs onto it beautifully. And now it's a 5-on-5 break with Owen trailing the play, rather than if we're in our right spots, or even if he just takes a better angle. Now he's side by side with Totland and maybe slowing down the break, while then we have it's a 5-on-6 break then, right? So then you pointed this out too in our back and forth before we started recording. Now that they're in on this 5-on-5 break, Brandon Heinzike is pointing and shouting to Gimme Biro to get out there to Rasmus Alm running down the right, and he doesn't. It's a clear miscommunication here after watching the replay, and Totland plays Alm down that right edge of the area, and he puts it right to the penalty spot, where I think, again, like I was looking last night, I was looking today on the rewatch, trying to fault Julio here, and I don't think I really can. I think this is an instance where, at least from my perspective, I just have to credit a good to great offensive player in this league in Joao Klaus, because Julio checks his shoulder. He sees Klaus right there behind him, and it looks to me on the replay like Klaus, as soon as he sees Julio check his shoulder, darts away. Like he makes that move right when that shoulder check happens. And then after that great cutback or just cut to the penalty spot, I also think Klaus gets a little bit lucky here with the flick towards goal that just rolls in towards or inside that back post to get the 1-0 lead. But again, it's the preparation and opportunity that St. Louis had there, our miscommunications, and then you get a little bit of luck on the touch, and it's 1-0, and goals change games, and that's what happens here as well.
Yep. I mean, we're in a compromised position to begin. So you're trying to get back into that shell, and I feel like Danny and Owen probably would have had to just like let everything go they had in the tank to get neck and neck with these guys here. And Owen does take a very poor angle. But the thing is, like, that ball is contained at that point in time. He's got Owen a little behind his shoulder. Brandon Heinzike is right there. Julio has recovered to the back. The number one threat right now is Alm on that wing, in my opinion, because I'm going to take my chances with Totland letting that shit go on Stuver from outside the 18 with bodies in the box. I will take my chances with that. And Brandon Heinzike, in the moment, I'm seeing it and I'm watching it and I'm screaming, Biro, get out there, Biro. So like, I just don't understand it. And like, I've been trying to process it and think about it and like contemplate like what could it have been. And I understand that that's probably part of our defensive principles. The part of our scheme is like stay compact there. We're still trying to keep them out of this red zone, but things have changed at this point in time because we are not in our shell defense. So I just needed him to get out there. Brandon Heinzike tells him to get out there. That ball is going to be stopped. And, our best player misses a great opportunity. Their best player makes the most of a great opportunity. And there's your 1-0 scoreline.
Yep. And to be honest, man, I don't have a ton of notes the rest of the way here
Nope.
because there wasn't a ton until really like the last 10 minutes or so when it really opens up, when both teams have all their subs in there and you've got the combo of fresh legs with dead legs. And right after the goal here, 61st minute, you do get Aziel Jackson in for Vasilev, and then Thoresen comes in for Alm. And then 65th minute, we get the return of Emiliano Rigoni coming in for Hodder Obrian. Do you have any thoughts on the sub, or maybe just how Emmy played on the night? Because I don't think I actually included the skied cross to nobody in the notes, but that was a big talking point. Yeah,
I don't think he's earned that right.
Yeah.
I don't think he earned that right over Finley in that situation. I understand that, you know, all of the aspects and variables that come into the Rigoni situation, the salary, the status, all of these things. I just don't think he's earned that right with his play to be the guy that we go to there. He's still a little better on the ball than Finley. Finley's going to give you that straight line, sprinting kind of action, making plays on that back post if the ball comes whipping in. And this game opens up at the end here, right? Like you said, there's fresh legs, there's dead legs on this game. It becomes an entirely new game at this point in time. We're pressing the shit. We're trying to get going forward and everything. They're even more conceding backwards. So it's like, I would have liked to have seen Finley there. I don't think Emmy has earned the right to play in these games. He hasn't. I don't give a shit how good he's playing in practice. He hasn't performed in the games, period. So like, I still just don't think that he has the right to be in this game, to be the sub that comes on. And, you know, you see it later with this cross, which is just absolutely, it was an embarrassing, I mean, it's an embarrassing kick.
Yeah. Like, and maybe expected.
I don't even know if I expected it to be that bad. Like it's out of bounds. It's over the net. You'd have to be LeBron on Wembanyama's back to like dunk that. So like, I just don't like, I think that was the wrong call. I was actually kind of interested in what you had proposed with your substitution pattern there, where you wanted to get Gian, drop Diego back with that dual 10, now with Diego and Seba in that middle position, both kind of being more center of attacking mids in that situation.
Yeah.
But I think that leaves a huge gap in between where Danny is playing and trying to get forward to those guys. So unless we're trying to drop Seba back, which I also would have been okay, which would have been fine with, because he needs to get more touches, and we had to find some sort of way to get him more touches in those situations. But I do think it was the wrong call to bring Emmy in. And that's me really just like not bringing in all of the negativity surrounding him. The facts are that he has not been able to play in games and produce anything this season. I'm judging him right now on this season. It hasn't been there. And I don't think I don't think he deserved that right to go out there and represent the club.
Yeah. Well, I guess my question to you, just playing devil's advocate there, because obviously I wasn't like thrilled to see number 7, you know, getting his number called there, and I would be fine seeing Finley. If he hasn't earned it in your, like, the only place he can earn it where you see it is in a game. So like, I think for me, I just have to trust that he is outperforming Finley, or they have some other metric or reasoning for why, you know, maybe it's because we're planning on taking Owen off soon and we need somebody in there for sets and corners. Maybe that plays a factor, you know, whatever it is, you know, they have their reasons. I would love to hear it, but we're never going to know. But I guess that would be my question to you, is like, when is he going, you know, it's going to have to be in a game for us, because we're not going to see it in practice.
So then, like, to me, it's like, it's a game you're up, and it's like, can you do something with that limited amount of time? And like, that's the thing, when you are in this position that you're in as Emmy Rigoni, you don't get that leeway to determine when we're going to have to try to rely on you. Like, if you can get fortunate and we're up, you know, 2-0 on a club and we're trying to close this game out, then okay, then go show me something. But like, he just hasn't done it in any sort of game script, any sort of play. And it's like, you saw the heat map for Owen and how much defense he was having to play. Finley's better in that regard, at least from a speed standpoint.
Like, at least I think he's going to battle a little bit more physically. He's
absolutely going to battle. So, you know, he's had every opportunity in the world. He's had every single chance in the world. And like, I just don't think that he earned the right to get out there.
Fair enough. 67th minute, you do get a yellow card to John Gallagher for what Uncle deemed clearly a tactical foul, but the offensive player ran right into him. I mean, that's a tough break for Johnny. And he says it. He's like, yeah, what am I supposed like? I mean, he has a right to that space, no?
Yeah. What else could he possibly do? Fall?
Yeah, the guy
down?
ran into him.
Like, you just fall on the ground and lay down, let the guy jump over him.
Yeah.
It wasn't a yellow. I can understand stopping the play. They lost the ball, but God, now I'm just so much more amped because fucking Aziel Jackson came in the game, and this dude is actually the worst in the entire league. He is the worst human in the league.
Oh my God. Just you get to see Amin Bassi this coming weekend, bro.
I've seen Amin Bassi do his shit after what I saw Aziel Jackson do yesterday, bro.
Yeah.
Move forward.
78th minute here. We get the return of Jean Kolmanich in there for Gimme Biro on the left. And 4 minutes later, you do get Zardes for Wolf. And again, going back to what you hinted at, like the change I wanted after the goal was bring Zardes in for Alex Ring. And I understand, I agree with you that, you know, that is going to lower your defensive acumen there in the midfield. But to me, it's like, are we about getting a result here or not? Because then maybe we give up 2-3 goals, right? We've seen that against this team before when things get stretched, but are we going for the result or not? And when the game changes, are we going to come out of that shell or not? Because it's 0 points regardless, whether it's 1-0 or 3-0. And I know that goal differential comes into play in tiebreakers and this and that, but yeah, I see you waving it away. Yeah. And in my opinion there, and I know it's an emotional fan opinion, but like, I'm pushing for a fucking goal there. And to me, a move like that, that's not just like for like, is what I wanted to see. And of course, Zardes for Owen is not like for like there. But again, I just think that's not as offensive minded as we could have been with those subs.
Yeah, I think Owen was gassed. I think he was really
well, I'm not complaining about Owen coming out at all. It's just that I just don't think we really oriented ourselves towards that early enough for me. But again, I'm just a fucking doofus. So
yeah, I mean, and so it's like, you know, we're not to get back onto the Rigoni thing, but we haven't found anything really off the bench where it's like, oh, here's our spark and here it comes. So like, why not get a little bit creative here? I don't understand. I just still don't understand the Rigoni sub. I just don't think it was the right call.
Yeah, 84th.
And it's easy to say that when we fucking lose. You know what I mean?
Oh, for sure. I don't, if he comes in and assists a goal, the game-tying goal, then you're like, holy shit, Rigoni's back.
Of course. So I need to preface that with that. But like, it just doesn't seem the right. It just didn't seem like the right move. And to your point, where it's like, what are we gonna do here? Because like, we're not good enough to fucking worry about goal differential at game. You know what I mean? Like in game 8 for a 34, and it's just like
we're trying to stack points.
Exactly. We gotta stay on that line. That is the goal up until summer. Stay on that line. So, you know, we've had some miracle goals this season. You know, we're coming off the latest goal in club history. Yeah. And you know, it was not a perfect game by any stretch of the imagination from anyone involved with the club.
84th minute.
Eddie Stuver.
Yeah.
He did what he could.
Yeah. And to be honest, he wasn't really called on that much.
Nope. And like that's it takes me back to the Biro thing. It's like we've got it from
called him Biro, by the way.
It's Biro. we got it from the horse's mouth with Stuve. Like they're content to let people take long shots on him.
Yeah.
And like that's what we're talking about. And so
84th minute double sub here for St. Louis. Kajima and Deer in for Ostrak and Hebert. 87th minute game. Much more open here down the stretch after the subs. Kolmanich getting numerous opportunities on the left.
Terrible.
But he's well scouted here because it's just left. And then when he does get a clean look here, still in regulation, he's not really finding anybody in advantageous positions here. But long build up, sustained possession. And then Danny gets a pass from Zardes. Zardes on the far side of the area. Danny probably 8-10 yards above the top of the box. And Zardes tries to hit him like on a little half switch there. And Danny just lets the pass get away from him. And I don't know, man. I watching it live, watching it on the replay today. I think that's on Danny. Because even if the pass is a little bit wayward, you're by yourself. And the pass is coming from 30, 40 yards away. It's not over you. It's on the ground. Go get it, man.
He had 2 really terrible plays at the end of this game, Danny. With that, he has this one, and then the pass to Komanic.
Yeah.
Komanic.
There you
go. Give me a yellow for the Biro.
Yeah, okay.
Let me see it. Show it to me.
I don't have my cards next to me. But, here, look. Here's a little Wimby with the French flag on it.
Oh, there we go.
And here's a Seba.
There we go.
They got cards all over the place over here. The North End podcast offices.
And this is one of the things that I hinted at earlier on the episode, where it's like, these are just really poor mistakes. And fatigue has set in for Danny at this point. I know he battled. He played a long game here. He had to track back in transitional defense very often. But again, we're not good. We are just not good enough right now to overcome these things. We're just not.
First minute of stoppage here, and we do get 10 minutes.
Yeah, I felt good about that.
Long ball down the left here from Jean to Rigoni, and I thought Emmy actually does fairly well here to keep this ball in. Again, if he's faster, he's not having to make this stretch all the way at the end line, but he is who he is at this point of his career. So I actually would give him a little credit here for chasing this ball down and putting it not just into the area, and maybe this is majority luck, but he does put it right to the feet of Gyasi Zardes, who's boxing out his defender in the box and unfortunately loses his footing. But that was, again, I think, to what coach says post-match, and we'll talk about here in a moment. This is one of those opportunities where we put ourselves in a position to be dangerous and the finishing continues to be lackluster or just below what we need it to be for our game model with this current iteration of Austin FC and our roster. Austin gets it right back here off that turnover from Gyasi, and Jean again fires a dangerous ball that bounces in the box and then goes just over the head of Gyasi Zardes. And if he's able to get even a little touch on this, I think he probably pops it over Berkey and into the net. So again, the fight was still there. And that was something that I think we can take away, even though, again, it's not as aggressive and fearsome as Austin has looked at times during the 2 wins at home over the last 2 games. But again, just as from a wide view, the fight was there with this team, with the subs who came in, they kept battling. And again, to your point earlier, we've had some very lucky goals this season. Lots of teams get lucky goals at the end that change the result one way or another. And again, almost doesn't count, but it's better than, again, I know we've said this on the last couple podcasts, but it's better than what we saw in similar scenarios last year, in my mind, where we felt like the guys kind of gave up and were hopeless. And I didn't get that feeling at the end of this one. Again, it just doesn't look pretty because of the way we're trying to play.
Yep. I mean, I was holding out when I saw the 10 minutes. I was like, okay, we can get one here. Let's do this. And this play with G here. Oh, because if you just get a little touch on that, it just redirects the ball to a point where Berkey can't recover to that. Yeah. So, just unfortunate kind of mistiming. But to your point about the fight, this has been a staple from the team thus far up to the season. It's not going to always be there. You'll be able to point to points in this season where it was not there. And that's 100% fair. But I do believe that it's going to pay dividends in the long run. I genuinely believe that, as I genuinely believe that committing to how we're going to play our style will pay dividends in the long run. And you got to take your bumps and bruises. You got to take your losses like a man, take it on the chin. And we did here. And, again, I would take Saba with that chance 100 times out of 100. I fully trust him to be able to put those in the back of the net. And sometimes the ball doesn't go your way, man. And, it was a frustrating game. And when you don't have a shot on net, it becomes even more frustrating. But we were not entirely toothless like we have been on the road in regard to how we were approaching trying to get something generated on offense. I know that when we pull up these stats later, they're going to look really rough and really ugly. And, that's okay, man.
Well, we could say that. And we also had we also got lucky at the back end of this game too, because we kind of skipped over the Aziel Jackson goal that gets called back for offside. Second minute of stoppage, the rookie Kojima gets in behind, beats Zahn to the ball. And again, to your point about Zahn not playing well, this was not a highlight for Kolmanich there. And luckily for Austin, Kojima puts this one wide. That should have been the second goal as well. So again, like, it's not like St. Louis was without their chances that they missed either. But again, at the end of the day, 1-0 loss for Austin FC, 62% possession for Austin. And that was, I would say, that was a horseshoe 60% possession. It was not the dominant type of possession we saw, especially against that beat up Dallas team 2 weeks ago. 11 shots to 2 for St. Louis, 4 shots on target to 0. It was the first time we had 0 shots on target this season, but I will say it's better than the Seattle match where the shot on target was Valencia rolling it to Andrew Thomas in net from 30 yards out, right? The Seba chance off the corner is better than anything we generated in that match or the Orlando match, but 6 corners to 5 in favor of Austin, which comes up half a corner short for the Mets. We'll talk the nonsense on Wednesday's episode. Actually, maybe a Thursday episode this week. We'll have to talk about it. But then a couple quotes from the post-game presser kind of hinted at the takeaway I had from Coach Wolf last night when I listened to the presser, him saying that I think we had plenty of opportunities where we arrive in good spots and we played enough to deserve a point or to grab a point, if not more, I think is what he actually said. Last night, I didn't want to hear that.
Yeah.
After watching the replay, I don't think he's off base. It doesn't make me any less frustrated as a fan that we can't find the fucking back of the net. And it's even worse than that on the road here through 3 road matches. But I do agree with him when he says there's still a lot of good in this game, as long as we frame it relative to the other 2 road matches we've had. I would agree. And again, I think then some of it does fall to the players where when we do have those few opportunities, because we know they're not going to be, I think he says it here. He says, we knew we weren't necessarily going to set up shop like we do at home. The players know they got to be better finishing, I would think. Any thoughts from you on what Coach said?
I mean, 10 wants that one back for sure. He definitely wants that one back. Even after seeing it like right after the game, I was kind of on board with what he was saying. I don't think it was like a ludicrous thing to say. It didn't make me feel any better. I don't think it made most people feel any better, but what are you going to say in that moment to make people feel better after you don't even have a shot on target? So again, there are things to build on there. And like I said, Ted wants that one back. He just missed it.
Yep. Then we did get some Alex Ring availability as well on the post-game press conference. And I am grabbing these quotes again from our buddy Phil over at Verde All Day. So make sure you go subscribe if you have not yet. He said, and again, why we love him, right? He said, pressure is a privilege. So you always like a quote like that. But he said, this is where he differed from Coach. He said, best case scenario, we would have come away with a 0-0 draw today. And we thank our lucky stars because we weren't up to standard today. And again, I think overall I side more with that.
It's still a point.
Yeah. And I would have taken that.
Yeah. I mean, it's still a point. Like that's what Wolf said was we deserved a point.
Yeah. He also said, or more.
Well, that's a little aggressive.
Yeah. But then the last thing we'll talk about here from Alex Ring, he said, I think it's about players doing their job. We talked about it. I think it's just recognizing situations faster, especially when Berkey was pinging the balls to our left side for us to start shifting there. Those are important plays. And if you do your job, you'll keep it in check. So again, he said, we talked about it. And I assume when he says that, they had some serious conversations in the locker room on whoever they perceived as making those mistakes or not adjusting quick enough. So again, I like to hear Alex come out and say stuff like that, just acknowledging, hey, we know. And again, moving forward, because it's 1 of 34, it's 1 of 17 on the road. And And I guess it's nice to say that. And if you got anything else to add on what Alex said there, it's nice to say that. But I've got some stats for you here.
Yeah. I think that's a great response from Cap. And I hope that that's how it played out in the locker room, where the dudes were frustrated, but understanding the perspective of this all, and that we had a chance to put one in the back of the net here, and this game could have been completely turned around. But like you said, can't dwell on it too long, because we got something coming up big here.
Yeah. So here's our stats per game, and we've split them, got some home road splits here. And of course, these are not even. We've had 5 matches at home out of our 8, so just 3 on the road. But you can look here, at home this season through 5 matches, Austin is averaging 2.2 goals per game, which we will absolutely take. But giving up still 2 per game at home. And then the shots per game still in favor of our opponents, 15.4 to 11. And then your expected goals per game is 2.17 for our opponents at home to just 1.25 for Austin. So I know we've said we've gotten a little lucky before, especially with that San Jose match. But we are winning that field tilt battle at home for what that is worth, 52.3% field tilt at home, which is the percent of the total touches in a game in the attacking third for either team. So Austin, again, on the back of the last 2 games, really, because I do have the game-by-game breakdowns in terms of the field tilt here, 74.1% against Dallas, 72.1% against San Jose. And our first 3 opponents at home, we didn't have a field tilt higher than 44.7%. So again, it is really riding those last 2 games. But those 2 games happen, so they count.
Yeah, full Seba games. So
yeah, another good point there. But then when you flip it over here to the road, it is abhorrent. Hideous. Yeah. That's
oh man.
That's an accurate noise to respond to these numbers, because, and I will draw attention to this. We're giving up 1 goal per game on the road, which is pretty good, I think.
Yeah, I mean,
we have no goals scored, and you get down further into this chart, the shots per game. Again, we talk about the opponents and conceding chances that are not high probability. You would still like to see this not be 9-1, basically 18 2/3 shots per game for our opponents through these 3 matches on the road, to just 2 1/3 for Austin per game. Expected goals per game, 1.54 for the opponents, 0.17 total for Austin, or per game rather. And then a field tilt of just 37.8%. So again, the eye test matches the stats here on the road. We got no chance if this continues. And again, I know, like, we didn't have Seba. We're playing ultra conservative on the road to start this year. And again, I want us to continue to try to stick to the overall principles of how the vision is for this team for the future. But like I said earlier, there also needs to be some game-to-game tweaks and in-game changes that help bolster these numbers just a little bit, because man, even if Seba puts a goal home yesterday, that's not changing our shot total, not changing our XG total, really. Like, the field tilt is the same. You're just getting dominated. And if these numbers bore out over a full season, we would have 2.89 XG on the road for the whole fucking year. It's got to get better.
Yeah, that's not going to get the job done at all. It's a clear contrast in how we play at home and how we play on the road, and we have been very, 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 very bad on the road. I do want to see these numbers evolve. They're in my face right now. They suck, but I do want to see them evolve with a healthy 10 and this lineup that we have found that has shown more promise than the initial ones that we had in the Seattle game, the Orlando game as well. So yeah, that sucks. There's no other way to really say it. That looks awful. And it's not going to get the job done which is our goal right now. Can't win a championship in a half of a season. Getting to the summer window, staying in line with the playoff line is the mission for this first half of the season here. And that is not going to get the job done, and things do need to change. And I'm still going to keep riding it out, and I want to see how those numbers evolve and progress as we go forward, because I don't see how they can get worse.
Yeah.
Unless you start taking negative shots.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, we can keep it moving here. We'll push this to the midweek pod. I do want to talk about a rule change that appears like it's not going to happen, but relating to veteran players and maybe cap relief to be able to keep your veterans around, maybe like a bird rights type of deal for the NBA heads. So we'll talk about that more in the midweek episode. Anything else for you on this game before we get to last business day?
Nope. I'm totally over it. On to the next mission.
All right, so let's talk last business day here. Austin FC 2 on Friday, taking on St. Louis City 2 at the pitch. And when it came to this lineup here, E, I know you only got to watch the second half of this one, but we were talking about the lineup. We see the return to the 11 of Sheikh Touré, of Bobo. And then in this one, we get no striker, or in the traditional sense, Sebastian Pignot on the bench, John Santillán on the bench. So Micah Burton playing a little bit of a false nine here. We've seen him play at the 9 with the youth national team. But your thoughts on the lineup and then how it eventually played out here?
This lineup signals to me that they're looking for something. They are trying to find some way to generate some more offense. And I don't know if that means benching Pignot or going to this false 9 like entirely, but it's clearly signaling that the strength of this team right now is in the midfield, especially with a healthy Bobo back and everything like that. So you're trying to get as much of these dudes on there as on the pitch as you can. So that signals to me that we're trying to search for something, and this team is going to have to keep looking for answers because it is not the team that we had last year. And that's totally fine. This iteration of this club is completely different. And like we said, we're looking for creative ways from the first team. They're experimenting with creative ways with this second club right now. So we didn't get the result. I don't think that means you scrap everything that you've been trying to work on, or there's something that you saw in this lineup that might have worked versus this particular club. But it just wasn't good enough again.
Yeah, I mean, from a personnel standpoint, watching this one, FC 2 does fall 1-0 ultimately to City 2, 13 shots to 9 in favor of City 2, 5 shots on goal to 2. But man, like looking at how this game progressed, I thought it was right there for the taking. Austin missed both of their big chances that they generated, and I think both of those are probably being credited to ultimately what ended up as Micah Burton misses. I think he would want both of those back, especially the second chance that he had there in front of net. Yeah. So the execution woes in the final third, the finishing, whether it's second team, first team, especially at the 9 here with the second team with Pignot and Santillán and now Micah, we just are not getting the consistency up there with the chances that we are generating here with FC 2. And so I'm not surprised if we see that carousel continue up top.
Yeah, me neither. Like I said, they're clearly searching for something. So I don't know what it's going to finally look like at the end of all that, but they are looking.
Yep.
And that second one from Micah, man. Oh,
yeah, you want that one back. But look, man, that's what Next Pro is for, man. It's a development league. It's not go out there and win the cup every year. You'd love to do that, but that's just not the reality. And I'm not saying that this team can't go back to back. It's way too early to be making any calls like that. But I guess the last two things I would say on this one before we put it in the rear view is it was really nice to have Bobo and Sheikh back out there. I don't know where Steve Louis-Jean was. Maybe just in practice, got beat out, didn't make the team. So hopefully it's not an injury or anything. But again, this team has more guys than they can fill the game day roster with, which is not. We're not used to that with the first team at this point. And then I will shout out Gimme. I thought Gimme had a very good game here. Created 5 chances per fight mob there. He was played the full 90. I thought he was aggressive as he always is. That's kind of what he knows how to do, right? Yep. But he was also getting his teammates involved. So I thought he was very good on the night.
From the second half and what I saw, he was definitely looking like the best player out there for us. And, you just got to appreciate the way that he approaches this. Like
Yep.
he's coming at you, man. And he's gunning for it. And I respect the hell out of that.
All right, so we will close, and we'll have last business day in the midweek as well. We'll check in on Damian. We will preview FCito's next match, which is this Saturday night, 9 p.m. Central, against the Town FC, which is the rebranded Quakes 2.
Yeah, I was gonna say, who the fuck is that? Is it the Ben Affleck's team? I was like, what is going to the Town? I was like, San Jose.
Yeah, San Jose. So, and they're actually going to play in PayPal Park. So playing in the big stadium on Saturday. So we'll flip over from beating Houston at about 9:30. We'll be a half hour into FCito. Maybe we'll dual screen it. It depends on where we're watching, So we'll preview that match on Wednesday. The last thing I wanted to close with here is the GA Cup is over, but the academy teams are still playing. We had matches against GFI, the club out of Houston, this weekend, and the U14s here get featured on the MLS Next Instagram there. So that is Tyler, Matthew, and Chuka there. I apologize to Chuka if I'm screwing up the pronunciation there. That's kind of our thing. But great to see these boys on the cover of MLS Next and the socials there.
Great, man.
Yeah, and we've actually got a clip here of the goal that earned them the goal that earned them that post. So here you go. You'll see the nice little assist. We got a little arrow there. I believe that is Tyler with the ball, and look at this through ball.
Beautiful.
Look at that. And then the forward, I'm not sure if that's Matthew or Chuka there because I can't see the numbers.
Yeah.
But then you see them going over to get the celebration. So that's where you get the Instagram moment. But great pass there. And it's good to see these guys, continuing to find success, continuing to gel and having fun with it.
Dude, that just made me so happy.
Yeah.
Fuck St. Louis. That was awesome. Don't worry about us not having any goals on the road. That was so cool. What a ball. Yeah. What a finish. The celebration. Like, man, that's what it's all about. That's great. Shout out to those guys, man. That was great.
Yeah, so it was a 4-1 victory over GFI. And apparently right before that play, we were coming off another goal that Chuka scored off a nice volley that Toby crossed in from the right side. So those guys are rolling, man. Great weekend.
Yeah, that's how you respond. That's awesome.
All right. Well, anything else for you, E, before we get out of here? It's Houston week, baby.
You know what time it is. You know what time it is. All right, baby. Yeah. Let's get this St. Louis taste out of the mouth. Work to be done.
Yep. I'm with you.
Probably didn't sound good on audio.
Well, hey, that's when it's Houston week. We're pumped up. We'll get those birds loose, stretch them out. I told Phil the other day I'm doing some toe exercises, quad bird technology in the works here.
Whoa.
In the North End studios. Yeah, there's no better time to start turning things around on the road with those ugly stats we're looking at and get our first road win in like 9 months than against those orange fuckers this coming Saturday on 420E. I want to be smoking that Houston pack this Saturday night. And look, man, I'm getting too jacked up. We got to save some of this for Wednesday. Okay. Got to save some of the energy.
Okay.
But
get out of here. Yeah.
Getting that heart rate up. All right, everybody. Appreciate you tuning in. Enjoy the beginning of your week. Long season, and we press on. It is rivalry week once again. So hope you enjoy the beginning of your week, and we'll see you back here midweek to preview that Houston match, to preview the FCito match against the Town FC, talk the nonsense, best keeper in the world, and everything else that happens in between. So we appreciate you tuning in, and we'll see you back here in a few days. Until then, he's E, and I'm Zach. Vamos Austin FC, everybody. Goodbye.